Hello all, welcome to today's video. Today we'll be mainly seeing about an important strategy related to caching, which is called request collapsing. So it comes under the cache strategy. So what happens when a particular client is sending multiple requests for a data item which is present in the DB, and in our application there is a provision to cache the data which is coming from the DB. And when a client sends multiple requests to get multiple records from the related table or from the same table, and what happens when the particular data is not present in that cache, and typically known as cache miss. Therefore, in that scenario, what typically happens is when there is a cache miss, the cache will request that particular data from the DB and load the data, load the corresponding record from the DB and update its cache. Therefore, if there are multiple such requests from the client, there will be multiple such requests made from the cache to the DB to get those records from the DB and update the cache. So there will be multiple calls going on from the cache to the DB to load the data. So that seems to be very an expensive operation. I will just demonstrate with a diagram here what I meant. So if you see here, there is a first request from the client to get employees with ID equal to 1. Therefore, it actually the request is fired to the cache to get the details. Since the data is not present in the cache, it the cache actually goes ahead and queries the DB to get that particular record from the DB, and it updates its cache and returns back the result to the client. That happens when the data is not that record is not present in the cache. Therefore, what happens when there is another similar request for a different ID? For the same, since we have only fetched only part of the data, or we have only fetched employee with ID equal to 1 from the DB and updated the cache, we don't have an employee with ID equal to 2 present in the cache. So the cache, what it will do, it will again go ahead and do a query to the DB to fetch the employee with ID equal to. Similarly, with another employee with ID equal to 3, cache goes ahead and queries the DB to fetch the particular record and update its cache and return the result back to the client. So what happens when this client request comes in parallel? Whenever the client request comes in parallel, there will be multiple requests made from the cache to the DB, multiple requests made from the cache to the DB to fetch those records and update the cache. As you all know, the DB, it is kind of a shared resource and it can't be queried on parallelly. Therefore, there is a limitation to the number of parallel queries it can handle. Therefore, it is kind of an expensive operation to do a query on the DB and to get the result. For each of the requests from the client, if you want to query it to the DB, it will be much an expensive operation and it will cause a lot of delay in our application, which will lead to a bad user experience. For what we can do in this particular situation, let's look at it. So let's that request collapsing comes to the rescue. So what it means is whenever a particular client requests for a particular employee record with a particular ID, what happens is we will fetch the all the related data from the DB at once and update the cache. If as you can see in the next this particular figure, whenever this request comes, only one request comes with whenever client request with ID equal to 1, what we'll do, we will fetch the entire employee record from the employee table and update the cache at once. Therefore, there is only one request made from the cache to the DB. There is one query made from the cache to the DB, which is a single call which actually gets all the records from the employee table and update the cache. Therefore, for subsequent queries for ID equal to 2 and ID equal to 3, it actually doesn't, the cache has the result with it. So it doesn't need to go ahead and query the DB to get the records. So that's how this request collapsing works. For multiple requests, you anticipate what is the next, what could be the next request coming in, and based on that you fetch the related data from the DB and update the cache. This is a particularly good to know, or it is particularly important concept or important cache strategy to know when you are designing an application. Therefore, this will actually have an performance impact to your application. That's what I want to cover in this particular short video. Maybe if you like the video, you press on like button and do share this video with your community. And if you are interested in such content, please comment interested in the comment section below and do share this video in your community. Thank you. Thank you for joining.